Are you looking for a healthy new dinner recipe that only uses a few simple ingredients but is packed with flavor? If so, you're going to want to try this basil, shrimp, and tomato pasta with feta. And for this recipe, we're going to start with pasta, and you can use any kind of pasta, whatever your favorite shape of pasta is. I think that we're going to use penne pasta, but really if you wanted to use a spaghetti pasta or bow tie pasta, I think that would work equally as well. But we are using a whole grain penne pasta, and I do recommend a whole grain pasta because that's going to provide some extra nutrients and a lot more fiber. And fiber is important for our blood sugar, our digestion, and also for a healthy cholesterol. So for our pasta, we'll just need to prepare this according to our package directions. Now our next ingredient is going to be our shrimp. If you didn't want to use shrimp for this recipe, you could substitute using chicken instead. Or if you wanted to make it vegetarian, you could just omit the shrimp and the chicken because you're still going to get protein from the whole grain pasta and the feta cheese. But this shrimp has it's already been peeled and deveined, and the tails have been removed. So the last thing with our shrimp is going to be to just cook it, and it'll cook really quickly. So we're going to set this aside for now and start on our tomatoes. So we're going to be using 2 pints of grape tomatoes. If you'll notice, we have a variety of some different colors and shapes of tomatoes, but we're going to want to cut all of these in half. And you could really use whatever tomatoes that you have. If you wanted to even use Roma tomatoes, those would work. You would just need to cut those up. But that's a lot of tomatoes, so I want to show you all a little hack that I recently learned where you can cut a large amount of the tomatoes at a time so that it'll take a lot quicker to prepare the recipe. So for this, you're going to need 2 lids. They just need to be either the same identical lids or at least similar in size. And you'll put one lid down on the cutting board, and you'll want the lip of the lid up, and that's what's going to actually hold your tomatoes in place. So we'll just go ahead and put the tomatoes on top of the lid, and then with the other lid, you'll place it the same. You'll put the flat side down on top of the tomatoes, and so you're not going to want to press down, but just kind of put enough pressure to hold the tomatoes still, but not to smash them. That's not what we're going for here. But then with your knife hand, you will just take the knife and slice it through all the way across until you have all of the tomatoes cut in half. Okay, and now that we have all of our tomatoes cut in half, we're going to move on to our basil. And basil is something that you don't want to leave out of this recipe. It's really important for the flavor that it will give this dish. And we're just going to take some of the leaves off of the stem. We're going to need a total of about 3 tablespoons of basil. And we are going to maybe take some of the smaller leaves and we'll pack those inside of the larger leaves, but we're not going to do anything too fancy. We're just going to kind of roughly chop the basil. Okay, and now our vegetables are all prepared and we can move on to the shrimp. Now we're going to want to cook the shrimp on a medium to high heat. Again, the shrimp is going to cook really quickly, so we don't want to have it too high. So once our pan gets a little bit warm, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of oil to the pan. And now I'm using olive oil. Olive oil is a really healthy, heart-healthy oil. It's a good unsaturated fat. But if you didn't have olive oil, a good substitution for that would be canola oil. That would work just as well as the olive oil. And you're going to want to make sure that with your pan, that you're using a large enough pan that the shrimp is going to have plenty of room to cook. Now, you don't want the shrimp to overlap any. You're going to want to make sure that each of the shrimp pieces have plenty of room. And you'll notice when shrimp is raw, that it really is translucent in color. And so that's one of the ways that we can watch it when it's cooking, to make sure that it changes from this translucent to a more opaque color, opaque appearance and a pink color. But again, I'm just going to make sure that all of the shrimp is in one single layer so that none of it's overlapping, because we want it to cook evenly. And now that all of our shrimp has turned pink, now we're going to go ahead and add our tomatoes and basil to the shrimp. And we're going to want to cook the tomatoes. We don't want to cook them all the way down. We just want them to cook them until they're somewhat wilted. And we'll add our basil. Okay, so we want these tomatoes to keep cooking until you can start noticing them wilting a little bit. If you'll notice, we're using a combination of some different colors tomatoes, which really give it that bright color. Now, you don't have to use all of these different colors of tomatoes. You could just use red tomatoes. They're all going to give us a good amount of vitamin A, vitamin C, and antioxidants. So regardless, it's still going to be a healthy dish. I'm just going to let this cook for about 2 more minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to go drain our pasta. Now that our shrimp is fully cooked and our tomatoes are wilted, we're going to go ahead and add our very last ingredient, which is our feta cheese. And so if you'll notice that we didn't add any salt or other seasonings to this dish, which is really good that it gets a lot of flavor from the combination of the tomatoes, the basil, and the feta. So you really might find that when you make this at home, that you don't need to add any salt to it. Your family might like to add your favorite seasonings, maybe like red or black pepper or even some garlic. But I really encourage you to try it like it is before you add any salt, especially because it is really flavorful how it is. So we're going to go ahead and put our pasta, and then we will add our shrimp, tomato, basil, and feta mixture on top. And it is ready to go. I hope you'll give this a try. This is the basil, shrimp, and tomato pasta with feta. Get ready to enjoy.
For this recipe and more like it, scan this QR code. We hope you enjoyed this video as part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on the OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.